Your silence will not protect you. If I didn't define myself for myself, I would be crunched into other people's fantasies for me and eaten alive. I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid. I was going to die, sooner or later, whether or not I had even spoken myself. My silences had not protected me. Your silences will not protect you. What are the words you do not yet have? What are the tyrannies you swallow day by day and attempt to make your own, until you will sicken and die of them, still in silence? We have been socialized to respect fear more than our own need for language. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. I have come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. Racism and homophobia are real conditions of all our lives in this place and time. I urge each one of us here to reach down into that deep place of knowledge inside herself and touch that terror and loathing of any difference that lives here. See whose face it wears. Then the personal as the political can begin to illuminate all our choices. And when we speak we are afraid. Our words will not be heard, nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering, we were never meant to survive. Guilt is not a response to anger, it is a response to one's own actions or lack of action. If it leads to change, then it can be useful, since it is then no longer guilt but the beginning of knowledge. Yet all too often, guilt is just another name for impotence, for defensiveness destructive of communication. It becomes a device to protect ignorance and the continuation of things the way they are, the ultimate protection for changelessness. There is no thing as a single-issue struggle because we do not live single-issue lives. Revolution is not a one-time event. I want to live the rest of my life, however long or short, with as much sweetness as I can decently manage, loving all the people I love, and doing as much as I can of the work I still have to do. I am going to write fire until it comes out of my ears, my eyes, my nose holes everywhere. Until it's every breath I breathe. I'm going to go out like a fucking meteor. The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Pain is important, how we evade it, how we succumb to it, how we deal with it, how we transcend it. Black and third world people are expected to educate white people as to our humanity. Women are expected to educate men. Lesbians and gay men are expected to educate the heterosexual world. The oppressors maintain their position and evade their responsibility for their own actions. There is a constant drain of energy which might be better used in redefining ourselves and devising realistic scenarios for altering the present and constructing the future. Our feelings are our most genuine paths to knowledge. My silences have not protected me. Your silence will not protect you. But for every real word spoken, for every attempt I had ever made to speak those truths for which I am still seeking, I had made contact with other women while we examined the words to fit a world in which we all believed, bridging our differences. I am deliberate and afraid of nothing. Sometimes we are blessed with being able to choose the time, and the arena, and the manner of our revolution. But more usually, we must do battle where we are standing. I find I am constantly being encouraged to pluck out some one aspect of myself and present this as the meaningful whole, eclipsing or denying the other parts of self. I have a duty to speak the truth as I see it and share not just my triumphs, not just the things that felt good, but the pain, the intense, often unmitigated pain. It is important to share how I know survival is survival and not just a walk through the rain. Without community, there is no liberation. Unless one lives and loves in the trenches, it is difficult to remember that the war against dehumanization is ceaseless. I am my best work, a series of road maps, reports, recipes, doodles, and prayers from the front lines. But the true feminist deals out of a lesbian consciousness whether or not she ever sleeps with women. We have been raised to fear the yes within ourselves, our deepest cravings. Tell them about how you're never really a whole person if you remain silent, because there's always that one little piece inside you that wants to be spoken out. And if you keep ignoring it, it gets madder and hotter, and if you don't speak it out one day it will just up and punch you in the mouth from the inside. Those of us who stand outside the circle of this society's definition of acceptable women, those of us who have been forged in the crucibles of difference, those of us who are poor, who are lesbians, who are black, who are older, know that survival is not an academic skill, for the master's tools will not dismantle the master's house. They will never allow us to bring about genuine change. Nothing I accept about myself can be used against me to diminish me. The learning process is something you can incite, literally incite, like a riot. The erotic has often been misnamed by men and used against women. It has been made into the confused, the trivial, the psychotic, the plasticized sensation. For this reason, we have often turned away from the exploration and consideration of the erotic as a source of power and information, confusing it with its opposite, the pornographic. But pornography is a direct denial of the power of the erotic, for it represents the suppression of true feeling. Pornography emphasizes sensation without feeling. The erotic is a measure between the beginnings of our sense of self and the chaos of our strongest feelings. It is an internal sense of satisfaction to which, once we have experienced it, we know we can aspire. The erotic is a measure between the beginnings of our sense of self and the chaos of our strongest feelings. And that visibility which makes us most vulnerable is that which also is the source of our greatest strength. What are the words you do not yet have? What do you need to say? What are the tyrannies you swallow day by day and attempt to make your own, until you will sicken and die of them, still in silence? The White Fathers told us, I think, therefore I am. The black god is within each of us, the poet whispers in our dreams, I feel, therefore I can be free. Poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. Poetry is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of the light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams toward survival and change, first made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action. Poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. The farthest horizons of our hopes and fears are cobbled by our poems, carved from the rock experiences of our daily lives. I realize that if I wait until I am no longer afraid to act, write, speak, be, I'll be sending messages on the Ouija board, cryptic complaints from the other side. Men who are afraid to feel must keep women around to do their feeling for them while dismissing us for the same supposedly inferior capacity to feel deeply. But in this way also, men deny themselves their own essential humanity, becoming trapped in dependency and fear. Once you start to speak, people will yell at you. They will interrupt you, put you down and suggest it's personal. And the world won't end. And the speaking will get easier and easier. And you will find you have fallen in love with your own vision, which you may never have realized you had. And you will lose some friends and lovers, and realize you don't miss them. And new ones will find you and cherish you. And you will still flirt and paint your nails, dress up and party, because, as I think Emma Goldman said, if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. And at last you'll know with surpassing certainty that only one thing is more frightening than speaking your truth. And that is not speaking. Because the machine will try to grind you into dust anyway, whether or not we speak. Institutionalized rejection of difference is an absolute necessity in a profit economy which needs outsiders as surplus people. Some women wait for themselves around the next corner and call the empty spot peace, but the opposite of living is only not living, and the stars do not care. I know the anger lies inside of me like I know the beat of my heart and the taste of my spit. It is easier to be furious than to be yearning. Easier to crucify myself anew than to take on the threatening universe of wideness by admitting that we are worth wanting each other. Without community, there is no liberation, but community must not mean a shedding of our differences, nor the pathetic pretense that these differences do not exist. We must recognize and nurture the creative parts of each other without always understanding what will be created. Institutionalized rejection of difference is an absolute necessity in a profit economy which needs outsiders as surplus people. As members of such an economy, we have all been programmed to respond to the human difference between us with fear and loathing, and to handle the difference in one of three ways: ignore it, and if that is not possible, copy it if we think it is dominant, or destroy it if we think it is subordinate. But we have no patterns for relating across our human differences as equals. As a result, those differences have been misnamed and misused in the service of separation and confusion. Oppression is as American as apple pie. You do not have to be me in order for us to fight alongside each other. I do not have to be you to recognize that our wars are the same. What we must do is commit ourselves to some future that can include each other and to work toward that future with the particular strengths of our individual identities. And in order for us to do this, we must allow each other our differences at the same time as we recognize our sameness. If they cannot love and resist at the same time, they probably will not survive. You cannot use someone else's fire. You can only use your own. And in order to do that, you must first be willing to believe that you have it. The fact that we are here and that I speak these words is an attempt to break that silence and bridge some of those differences between us, for it is not difference which immobilizes us, but silence. And there are so many silences to be broken. I soon discovered that if you keep your mouth shut, people are apt to believe you know everything, and they begin to feel freer and freer to tell you anything, anxious to show that they know something, too. Some problems we share as women, some we do not. You fear your children will grow up to join the patriarchy and testify against you. We fear our children will be dragged from a car and shot down in the street, and you will turn your backs on the reasons they are dying. There's always someone asking you to underline one piece of yourself, whether it's black, woman, mother, dyke, teacher, etc., because that's the piece that they need to key into. They want to dismiss everything else. We tend to think of the erotic as an easy, tantalizing sexual arousal. I speak of the erotic as the deepest life force, a force which moves us toward living in a fundamental way. For we have been socialized to respect fear more than our own needs for language and definition, and while we wait in silence for that final luxury of fearlessness, the weight of that silence will choke us.